Yeah, see, I saw the trailer and it reminded me a little bit too much of Murder on the Orient Express, which I thought was the most tedious film in cinema for the last 20 years. So I was thinking I wasn't in a hurry to go and see that. So, but if someone says it's good, and I heard the review that Nina did.
Oh yeah,
until
it
cut off anyway. I was like, yeah, and.
That's the point.
Like, okay.
That's the point of the teaser.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix versus Cinema, the podcast that asks that question. Where should you spend your money? Should you spend your time at home, sitting on your couch? Should you go out to the cinema and get entertained? My name is Tosin and I am the host. I'm based somewhere up in Coventry. And joining me for what is one of the few constants in my life, 6 p.m. every Thursday evening, are Sharon.
Hello.
And Sean.
Hiya.
On the Isle of Wight. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah, me too. I'm good. The weather's been a bit iffy, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know, how's your job?
I haven't worked this week.
You haven't worked this week, no. I suppose you can't really take
I would have sunk.
Yeah. Yes, you would have done that.
You would have seen this all like bubbles coming out of this puddle, and it'd be like, what's under there? It would have been the gardener.
What's the weather been like up your end, Toes?
It's been pretty wet. It's wet
too, yeah.
It's just been like, because obviously I play tennis and we usually play on a Monday night, and Monday night we're just like drowned rats out there. So it was a case of, right, okay guys, okay, we've given it 40 minutes. All right, cool. Now let's just cinema. Yeah, I'm going to the cinema. So I left tennis and I went to go watch a preview screening of Knives Out.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah, I went to watch a previous screening of Knives Out. And which leads me on to the thing about the films we're going to be talking about this week. So I went to see a previous screening of it. Our superfan Nina actually went to see it as well. And I have recorded her review of Knives Out. We were going to talk about it this week, but then we started touching up the films that we have seen this week. And it turned out that between us, Sean, I was trying to do a you. I'd been at one point. Essentially, I was in the cinema once on Monday. I was in the cinema twice on Tuesday, and
wow.
Yes, I know. I was at the cinema twice on Tuesday. I'll get to the reasons why in a second. The cinema twice on Tuesday, and I was scheduled to be in the cinema on Wednesday night as well. And I just thought, I can't do this. I need to
can't
go.
Do it.
I need to go get some work.
I can't do it, man.
Yeah, no, honestly, I just got to the point. I was like, no, I can't. I never thought that life would get me to a point where I'll say, you know what, I can't go to the cinema again. It's too much.
Yeah.
But I mean, there was a film on. That's right. There was a film on that I wanted to see, but it was on at 2 p.m. called, I think, Those That Follow, it's called, or something like that. I saw it, but it was just the one showing at like 2:15, and it's like, I can't get to that.
I looked at that one as well.
You looked at that one.
But again, it's super times. I think I looked at it on Saturday afternoon thinking, what should I see Saturday afternoon? And it was about 2:30, because that's normally the time when I like to go, between 2:30 and like 3:30, because then it's afternoon, it doesn't interrupt my stricken time. So, and I looked up, and there was nothing that was due to start within the next hour. There was just nothing. They'd all started like at 2 o'clock.
I know. It's bizarre.
This is ridiculous.
Well, there's another film that I was looking forward to, but it hasn't come to the island. But I did see it. I didn't get a chance when I was on the mainland this time. But there's a film called Harriet.
Yes.
By Harriet Tubman.
So I'm hoping to catch that.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to come down. I've seen trailers and thought, I'd watch that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a shame really, but I'm surprised they got that other one. Those That Follow, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And but it's on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's crazy. Okay. And I'm away this weekend, so I'm going up to watch Tottenham play Bournemouth this weekend up to the new Tottenham Stadium.
Tottenham Stadium.
So I doubt I'll be watching much this weekend.
Yeah. Yep, good. Yeah, that's something I still have to check my dad. My dad's a Tottenham fan. I still have to take him to go see a game at the new stadium. Yeah. So, but as we were saying, we noticed that there were quite a few films this week, but we know that life is a game, and we know it's a bit of a give and take. And if the Hollywood studios are giving you something this week, you know that they're taking away something from somewhere. And sure enough, we actually had a look at next week to see, okay, let's see, if we talk about 5 films this week, what are we going to talk about next week? And sure enough, there's like nothing being released next week for some weird reason. It's like looking at the the listings for next week are pretty much exactly the same as this week.
This week, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I thought the same. I noticed that.
Yeah, so because of that, we have decided that we are going to push Knives Out, which is the film that I saw, which superfan Nina, we had a chat with her about it, and we're going to push that film, and we're going to push Charlie's Angels to next week. So we're going to review those next week.
Because I actually, because I saw that as a preview.
Oh,
I saw that as a preview, yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that was the film. That was the film I was supposed to see last night. That was the film I was supposed to see it as a preview last night, and I just thought, no.
But that's good because it gives me time to see, or me and Sharon, it gives me and Sharon time to see Knives Out, and it gives you time to see Charlie's Angels.
It does.
And maybe would the Charlie's Angels interest you at all, Sharon?
No.
No.
Okay, now that is Sharon. I would actually. Oh, excuse me. As we all cough our lungs up. So, Sharon, I would actually be really interested to see what you think of Charlie's Angels. Because from what I hear, because I know Charlie's Angels has essentially been, quite frankly, let's be honest, it's been a male fantasy ever since its inception in the 70s or something like that. But this one
remember Farrah Fawcett and Karen, what's her name? Karen Smith, is it?
Jacqueline Smith.
Jacqueline Smith. Karen was the other one.
Was it? Yeah. I mean, I never used to watch it, actually. I remember I was aware of it, and it was like, the posters, and you had okay, Angels. I mean, I can't do that voice, whatever it's Charlie. But, Angels, this is, but so I remember that.
You went a bit Bane there.
But, yeah, I did.
Angels. Yeah, Angels. Yeah.
Really good, yeah, probably. But, so I didn't actually watch it. I wasn't a fan of the show. So
it's one of those shows that I know about, but I cannot remember ever watching an episode. I remember seeing bits of episodes and stuff like that, but I do not actually remember watching an episode.
Yeah, it's like Starsky and Hutch. I mean, it was of its time. So I was young when I saw it. So I never saw the remake in the 90s or noughties. I never saw that remake.
Oh, the Ben Stiller one.
Yes.
I can still remember the music, though. Look at Sharon's looking at me with a face like
what the heck?
Yeah, what's going on?
You've been possessed by the ghost of Christmas past.
There you go.
Yeah, but no, I do. I agree with you. I do remember the music, but I'm more conversant with the films that were made. I think those were it was early noughties in the wake of The Matrix that they made the two Charlie's Angels movies with Cameron Diaz, Drew Barrymore, and Lucy Liu. And
they make two of them.
I didn't see them actually. Yeah. I haven't seen them.
Yeah, I've seen those ones, and I think the same thing could be leveled at it. But this time around, it's been directed by Elizabeth Banks, who is very vocal about the fact that she's trying to make something that is a lot more about the women, as opposed, it's like, essentially, let me put it this way, it focuses more on the angels than on the Charlies.
Right,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
So Sharon, I would actually be interested to see what you think about that and see if they succeeded in doing that.
So would I. I have a good mind to actually take you to see it.
Make me see it.
Yeah, make you see it. I think you should. I think you should. Really.
Okay.
So I think we should all review that, and because I think that's a really, really interesting movie to talk about. Seriously. So,
well, I'm not free next Wednesday. Oh, thank goodness.
Okay. Oh no! It's free. It's released now, Sharon. It's around all week.
Okay.
So you can see this weekend. You can see you can leave this podcast right now and go watch it right now if you so choose. So
that sounded a bit Mission Impossible, that one. That's not Charlie's Angels, that's Mission Impossible.
Yay!
Should you decide to take it?
Yes. So as I said, we will be talking Charlie's Angels and Knives Out next week, and we'll also be playing the Nina review, because we've given her the you know how we always share the synopses, like, okay, you tell us what this thing's about. So we've given her the honor, and next week she's going to give us the synopsis of what Knives Out is all about. But getting on to this week and the films we're actually going to be talking about. So if you've been listening to this show, you know that what we do is we'll have usually 3 rounds, and now that we've kicked those 2 films to next week, we actually do have 3 rounds. Rounds where we're gonna go cinema. What's in the cinema? What are we gonna put it up against on Netflix and all that kind of stuff? And this is a week in which the big story, the huge, massive story, should have been that Frozen 2's out and is destroying all in front of it. It should have been like Frozen 2 is out, it's destroying all in front of it. Parents are getting ready to have their kids singing this song all over again. Disney are making all the money in the world. That is what the story should have been. Instead, there's a film that has, weirdly enough, in the week that Frozen 2 has been released, been getting more column inches and more talk about it, and therefore getting more people to go watch it. And this is part of the reason why I ended up twice in the cinema on a Tuesday. I was not planning to see this film, but after all the fury that's come up because of this film, I was like, well, now I have to see it.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah, and for all the wrong. It wasn't necessarily about the film, was it? We can both guess which film you're talking about.
Yes.
It wasn't about the film. It was about the screening of the films, or even if it's related to this film or not.
Yes,
isn't it? You tell us what the film is, Tosin.
So, it's the film we're talking about is obviously Blue Story, which you could not have avoided. You had to be hiding underneath a rock in the United Kingdom to avoid talk about this film this week, because what happened was the film was released at the weekend, and at Vue Cinemas, at one particular Vue Cinema at Star City in Birmingham, which is about 30 minutes away from me, 30 minutes away from where I live. So they said that they had, because the film is about gang culture in London, and they had some gangs who showed up and said there were some teenagers out there with machetes starting a fight outside their cinema. And because of that, Vue went, right, there's a gang film on, there's a gang outside trying to do stuff. That's it, we're pulling this film. We're not showing it in any of our cinemas across the country. Any of 100 locations across the country, this film is going to be removed because it's causing trouble. Now, and this obviously caused a big, massive thing because everybody and his dog immediately yelled, "Racist!" And because personally, I'm somebody who I think accusing anybody of being a racist, I think that's one of the for me, it's a massive, massive accusation to make. It's like it's a dagger to the heart for me to call somebody a racist. So I am always one who's like, okay, cool, wait. Before we jump to that conclusion, let's pull this thing back a bit before we start slinging that word about, because that's some really, really thick mud to fling.
That's serious, isn't it?
Yeah, that's serious mud to. So I'm always like, okay, let's just pull it back. Wait, and so with me, I was kind of okay, cool. Before we say this thing is racist, let's actually think about this. And I was like, okay, let's say. So I started looking at the story and trying to figure out if the makers of the film, for instance, were sort of like telling gangs to go watch this film, and the sharks and the jets or whatever you want to call them show up, and then they start making then there could be a problem with it. But then the more I looked at this story, the more I was thinking, ooh, this looks dodge. This looks really dodge, because apparently at the time that the incident happened, the film wasn't actually due to show at that time. So it was, and do
you think it was a publicity stunt?
Well, you see the pictures of that boy with the machete, don't you?
This is.
Well, I don't know. I haven't really seen that much. I mean, I'm aware of it and I've heard it on the news, but I haven't seen any pictures or. You
see a picture of this lad carrying a 16-inch machete.
Yeah.
Well, is that at the Birmingham? Yeah, so one
of these. Yeah, there's a picture of this lad with this big blade, but that could just be that there's what's been going on in that particular area has spilled over.
And I think that this is we'll get to talking about the film in a second. But I think that's why it's essentially saying like, look, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. And many people might not actually realize, but this is what's happening. And it's so when you talk about it being a publicity stunt, this is another question that's come to my mind. So the first question is, was it racist? Number two, was it a publicity stunt? And with the whole, because with the racist thing, I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking you couldn't make Vue cancel it from all of your. I mean, I don't think the people who made this film have the kind of clout to have a deal with Vue to tell them cancel it in every single one of your venues. And I feel like it's almost because people have pointed out the fact that if you remember The Dark Knight, when that was released, there was somebody went in and shot a whole bunch of people in a cinema where they were showing The Dark Knight, and that people actually died. So people died from 20-something people died and people said, well, they didn't pull that from the cinema, and I was like, okay, yeah, but okay, let me try and be even here. They didn't pull that from the cinema, but that was like one event in one place, and I feel like it's almost as if I think I've come down to the point where there is something racial in here. It's almost kind of like we haven't experienced this before. We haven't had this kind of film in the cinemas, like, widespread before. We haven't had this kind of thing. Oh, those two things must be linked. Quick, pull it. And the fact that Vue are being very, very vague. They're saying, there were like 20 other incidences, but there is no detail about these other incidences that happened. There's just so many things around it, because when I went to see this film in Coventry, on Monday night I went to see Knives Out in Coventry, and when I came out of the cinema, there were policemen hanging around outside. And
really?
There were policemen. There were probably about 8 policemen, like a sort of community police support officers, standing outside the cinema. And I went to ask the cinema staff. I was like, why are they here? They were like, it's because Blue Story is playing, and they're just here just in case anything kicks off. So, yeah, and So I just think, and essentially when I went to see the film, it was a demographic that I do not necessarily see in cinemas. Number one, it was one of the most packed screenings I've ever been in recently. The screen was pretty much full. And number two, it was a demographic of young black people who you usually don't see coming en masse to the cinema. And I feel like there might have been some sort of miscommunication about the way they acted and then the way people thought it was, and then Vue. I think Vue overreacted. Yeah,
definitely.
But at the same time, even though I think I've thought about whether it's a publicity stunt. I've played around in my head and I've thought, if it was a publicity stunt, it's a very, very risky publicity stunt to pull. It's a massively risky one to pull, to actually get people to start walking around with machetes. That's just massively, massively dangerous. And I think that there's just so many things in it which I don't think you could account for. But what I will say is that it has turned out to be mega brilliant publicity for this film, because I would not have seen this film. I would not even have known that this film was released if it wasn't for what Vue did and the big furore. And I was thinking, okay, cool. We have a podcast where we talk about films. I'm the only black guy on this podcast. I need to go watch this film. So it was just like I need to go watch this film, go see what the whole thing is about, go see, and if nothing else, just to sort of stick 2 fingers up at Vue. I don't want to go watch this film in a cinema that isn't a Vue. So that is the big story that has been this week. So Sean, tell me about what happened. What made you go see it?
Well, I saw this before actually, because I always look at when I look at films, and I did notice it when I was sort of on the mainland, and I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. This was before, so I was aware of it before, but I thought it was one that wouldn't come to the island.
Yeah.
I thought that's not going to come.
Yeah.
So I was aware of this one, and then all the controversy hit, and I was like, oh, right, okay. But I would have seen this anyway, even if it hadn't been controversial, because it's a sort of film that, I like those sort of films. But what was funny, and there was quite a lot of people there, to be fair, which I think for a film like this, so whatever the publicity, negative or whatever, it obviously worked its magic, because there was quite a few people in the screen.
Yep.
But the strange thing was, I took the Chinese teaching assistant with me to watch it, and she was baffled by the whole thing. She was like, the film itself, she was like, yeah. She was. I could. In fact, I said, look, I totally understand if you want to, because there's some violent scenes in it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which, I don't think she was too worried about that, but I think she just couldn't really get what was going on, because she said, I don't know what they're saying. I can't understand. She can't understand what they're talking about.
Yes.
Although she could speak good English, and she could probably understand it if you said, well, you've met her, haven't you?
Yes, yeah.
And I could just see it, and I said, look, I won't be offended if you want to go, if you want to go. But she did stick out with it. She said, no, I've come with you. I will watch it. But I don't think she particularly enjoyed it. But I think that was purely because she couldn't understand it.
What they're saying.
I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
So there was more people there than I thought. And because I thought it would be like, oh yeah, I better choose my seat. But I couldn't, because they were all taken.
Yeah.
All my seats. So I was sort of sat towards the side. Oh. Yeah, my regular seats were gone. I was like, what's all this about? Because I thought there might be half a dozen people in there.
Yeah.
But no, it was really busy.
Yeah, you'd expect it to be like a sort of small art house niche movie, but as we said, the stories that it's had this week has just sort of made it a much bigger concern. It's given it a shot in the arm. So whether it was planned or not, Vue inadvertently, I think, have made this film a much bigger deal than it would have been otherwise. So
yeah.
So
but I should imagine it's made it some money.
Yeah, and we haven't got a View on the Isle of Wight, so we don't care.
No.
Ban away. Bannerway won't stop us watching it.
That's right. And I think Cineworld learned a lesson with when they didn't show The Hateful Eight a few years back. So, but that was for other reasons. Anyway, we won't go into that.
Yes, we will go into that. I mean, this is also like cultural, and actually that's just lawyers arguing. We don't want to talk about that. So
the film then, what is it about?
Okay, so let's kick off with the film. And 7 minutes starts now. So the film is essentially, it's about two kids. So the film Blue Story is about two kids who live in different postcodes in London. One of them is SE13 and one of them is in Peckham and one of them is in an area called Dartford. And they are friends, they've grown up together, all that sort of stuff. And but because of the areas that they grow up in, gangs have sort of formed around these areas, and there's this sort of gang culture where it's kind of like, hey, you come from this area, this is what you do. You come from that area, that's what you do. And we hate each other. Why? Because they live there. But why? Because they live there, okay? And so you have one of them who lives in one of these areas, but goes to school in the other area. And he and his best friend, they're like thick as thieves. They're just so together. But his best friend's brother is quite involved in this gang warfare, and it's kind of going, look, why are you friends with that guy? Don't you know that guy comes from that area? But it's like, look, and these two guys don't want anything to do with it. As far as they're concerned, it doesn't matter where you grow up. It doesn't matter. It just matters that is a good guy. I like that guy. He's my friend. And then the film rolls out into being this sort of story of what happens, and it's no spoiler to say, it rolls out being a story of what happens to get them into the gang culture. So it's really about how you see these two boys who start off with bright futures ahead of them. They're good at school, all that kind of stuff. And what happens in their lives to make them go from the point of view where they don't care about gang warfare, they don't want to be part of it, they're trying to do everything to avoid it, to the point where they actually end up in opposite gangs, really, really involved in it, and at loggerheads with each other. That is pretty much that's the synopsis of the film. Would you agree, Sean?
I would pretty much agree that, yeah. For me, this film, I don't even remember a film from, I think it must have been, I don't know, it was either probably 90s. There was a film called Boys in the Hood.
Oh, yeah, the American film, the 1992. John Singleton.
And, that's it. So, I mean, this film sort of reminded me very much, I mean, it was a different film because it was a British film and the gangs and things were slightly different, but it was that sort of story, the sort of story where people sort of they get pulled into a way of life, you know what I mean? Something happened, there's certain incidents that aren't, and gradually things escalate, and then it becomes, and it's such a shame. And I think for me, this was like saying a story. I wasn't too sure about the director, sort of his part in the movie. I wasn't sure on that. I could understand why that was there, why the narrative was there. He was sort of explaining.
Okay, well, what Sean's talking about is that they have these interludes in the film, which is pretty much like a Greek chorus. So you know how when you watch a play and you have a Greek chorus that come on and tell you, essentially do some exposition.
They break that fourth wall, don't they? They address the audience.
Yeah, and they have these interludes in the film where the director of the film is a guy called, his rap name is Rapman. He comes up and he does these rap interludes that tell you this is what's going on and move you from one scene to another. It happens about 3 times during the film. But I know, Sean, you're saying that you weren't too sure about it. But
I was sort of, I was going to say that, but I didn't know if that would class as a spoiler. But
they used that device in the film Bronson with Tom Hardy. Where he addresses, he's sort of on a stage and he addresses the audience, and they use a different medium to sort of go from one part of his life to another. Right. So they have used that device in.
That's right. Did that work for you?
Oh, I loved it.
No, not as a narrative.
Pardon? You enjoyed the rapping parts, yeah?
In Blue Story, I loved it. I mean, when it showed up, right? Because you were saying that essentially this is the kind of film that, and I know some people have said, "Oh, we've seen this story before," and it can be leveled at it, because if you look at any of the Martin Scorsese movies about Italian gangsters in New York or anything like that, there are similarities in the beats and the where the story goes, which is. It's a bit depressing because this just keeps happening over and over again. But it's filtered through this sort of black South London lens. And so when I looked at it, because this film essentially, if you look at it, and if you strip away the fact that it's black people, strip away the fact that it's in South London, strip away the fact that they speak in a very sort of like particular kind of slang, it's a Shakespeare play. It's totally Shakespearean. You could kick off and you could talk about the Montagues and the Capulets, and you could talk about the in fair Peckham where we lay our scene. These two families fight against each other. It is totally Shakespearean. And the fact that he comes and the fact that he comes out and the fact that he does these rap interludes, I was like, this, oh my word, I loved it. I was like, it's like a Greek chorus coming in and it's doing all that kind of stuff, but it's doing it in a way that it's very, very true to the area that they grew up and has come out of who they are. And that was one of I think the rap interludes were something that I just thought, oh, good Lord, this guy actually has a vision. He has something to say. He's going for something. I was really, really impressed. I mean, the rap interludes go for me. And the thing about it is like what you were saying about the sort of the Chinese teaching assistant who came along to watch it, because I watched this film like, okay, sure enough, I'm black. I'm of Nigerian origin. I did not grow up in London. And to be honest with you, watching this film made me really, really glad that I didn't grow up in London, and made me really, really appreciate my parents and really appreciate what they did to make sure that I didn't end up in a life like that. It made me mega, mega appreciate my parents. And but you're sitting down there and they're just because they are unapologetically just going on with the way they usually speak. It takes a while, but the same thing, and I keep coming back to this Shakespeare thing. It's kind of like when you go see a Shakespeare play. You know how it takes probably about 2 to 5 minutes for you to sort of relax, go into the flow of it, and then depending on what's happening on stage and who they're saying and how they're using their bodies, you figure out what they're saying. And you sort of like go, and I know for me it was the same thing with that. It was like, yes, you're hearing something in a language that it's similar to the one that you usually speak, but isn't exactly the one you speak. And there's all these slangs in there, and the slangs that I never even knew of, and the fact that it goes into, because one of the kids comes from a Jamaican sort of a Caribbean background, and the other one comes from I'm pretty sure a Nigerian background, because they have this thing about the different food that they eat and all that. When one of them goes to the other one's house and his mother makes food, and they use a word which I think the West Indians use as the way that they use the word. I have never heard the word before, but the way they use the word, I'm like, that's not complimentary to Africans at all. But I was kind of like, never heard that word, but I know it's not complimentary. And I think I enjoyed the fact that, quiet, we're still talking. So I enjoyed the fact that it was a very, very specific vision of this guy, because it's semi-autobiographical for the director. He did live in one area and go to school in another area and experience these sort of things. And I was just really, really impressed with the film. I thought, this guy has something to say. He's not just copying what he's seen before. He's putting his own spin on it. And the story is the kind of thing that, even though there is violence and there is death, I don't know about you, Sean, but I felt like I felt every single death in this film. There was nothing that was just sort of like thrown away. There was nothing that was just kind of like, oh yeah, action movie, someone's dead, oh, big deal. No, it was like, no, every single death. It didn't matter what side it was on.
Which side?
Yeah. It didn't matter what. It doesn't come down with one of the groups or the other group. It just sort of says, look, this thing is mad. And I felt every single death in this film. And I felt like the way they sketched the stories from good school-going boys to where they ended up was totally believable. I thought it was so impressive.
Yeah. And I am going to say that I did. Yeah, I did think. I mean, I'm not knocking this film. I think it was, I mean, I didn't, there wasn't any point really where I was like doing me huffing and puffing, and there wasn't even like thinking, oh no, this. So yeah, I mean, I sat through this quite comfortably, and as I say, I just felt a bit sorry for the Chinese assistant, but no, I was really focused on this film, and I thought it was good. I think the two performances of was it Marco and
Timmy?
Timmy, yeah.
Everybody's saying Timmy, but it's not Timmy, it's Tammy. He's a Nigerian name, Timmy. So
right. Yeah. So I thought they played it well.
I thought they were really, really good.
Yeah, I thought they were really, really good. Some of the supporting characters I didn't think were quite so good. I can't think. I mean, all the names they were given, like
they all had like street names.
There was Switcher and
Switcher, Bricker.
Some of these, so it was
Mads.
Bricker. Bricker. He got called Bricker afterwards. I can understand, and you can see how like they would get their monikers. All these would get their names. They because probably reputations and everything. They were so yeah. I mean, I can understand why the rapping was there, but I'm not sure if it was that sort of. I wasn't quite so keen on that as you were. I didn't know if that, but I can understand what you're saying. It's quite quite a novel thing.
Yeah.
But on the whole, it was an okay film. I'm not gonna knock it for anything. I didn't dislike it in any way, shape, or form, and I thought it was a really good film.
Yep.
So,
it's one of the things I was interested about this film. I haven't seen it. I was interested actually about this in Peckham, because that's one of the few areas of London I've got any connections with.
Yeah.
One, my cousins grew up there. I've got 4 young cousins who are dual heritage. So their parents were, my cousin was born obviously English, and her husband is from the Sudan. So their children have grown up as dual heritage.
Oh yeah.
And they grew up in Peckham.
Right.
But all 4 of them have grown up. Gone to university, have got different careers in different areas. One's a translator wanted to work for the United Nations, and they've got these big ambitions. So just growing up in Peckham, I think, doesn't condemn you to a life.
No, it doesn't.
I
was interested to think that it's sort of one aspect of life in Peckham, but we tend to, those of us in sort of rural England, tend to view London as being like, oh crikey, you're doomed but there is misery. Whereas I know my family experience that it is, people grow up there and live, quite happy.
Well, I had really, really great fun explaining to the Chinese assistant as we were going out about how London works, sort of thing, because it's very as you go around London, if you was to take the 25 or the South and North Circular, you've got certain areas. So obviously, South London is very much, African, West Indian, and then you've got West London, which is very much, Indian and people from Pakistan.
Yeah.
And then as you go more up north, you've got, it's just interesting to see the demographics.
My cousins who lived in Peckham, they chose Peckham because they wanted to raise their children in a culture where they weren't the odd ones out.
Yeah.
So they consciously chose to live in an environment where being dual heritage wasn't going to be an issue. Whereas in the village where my cousin was raised, I mean, it's like 200 people live there. I mean, you'll be very noticeable if you would be.
But if you I thought
they chose that area.
I always think of Clapham Junction as the dividing line of where, because then you've got South London as well. You've got Streatham and New Cross and all those sort of areas, and it's all but it's interesting. But this film was good to see this isolated movie,
but it's interesting that I think it's good that people's culture is reflected back at them then.
Yeah, I agree.
This is obviously part of British culture, and you need to see your culture in film. You need to see your culture reflected in music and in film and the culture around you. So it's important that films like this are made.
Yeah, no, I agree, and you actually see, but they still, although they're from, they're distant past, they're from different areas, they are still British. And I think this came across as, I don't know if you thought, Tosin, this still came across as part of
British culture,
British culture.
Well, yeah.
It's not all Jane Austen and cream cheese.
I think definitely the case. It came across as British, and I think with me, I always have this sort of because I'm pretty much like a hybrid nowadays. So it's you could see the British culture, but you can also see the sort of, for me, I could see the sort of African influence of how you end up with this African culture that's within people, and then you end up in a British place, and you end up coming up with this stew that comes out with some sort of a mixture of everything. And I have to say, one of the things is that this was one of the funnest experiences of watching this film in a cinema, because I watched it in Coventry. So obviously you have Coventry's a city, so you have quite a multiracial sort of makeup of the city, and you have university, so you have a lot of young people come to see the film. So there are a lot of people who came to see this film who probably came up from backgrounds like that and understood all the slang and all that kind of stuff. And because I always say, this is something that Africans do, and I think it is reflected in black people all around the world, watching film is an interactive experience. So in the early part of the film, when they're younger and they're trying to do things like ask girls out and all that kind of stuff, every time somebody does something awkward, you can just hear everybody in the cinema go, "Oh!"
They can relate to it.
Yeah, and then when something good happens to the camera, they're like, "Yeah!" And then they start clapping. They're like, "Yeah, you go, boy!" That kind of stuff. And it was really, really fun. But anyway, we need to get onto it.
We do. I'm just going to say this one thing. It's funny with the influences thing, because I've noticed this in some films I've seen. Fences was one of them, where they actually pour alcohol on the. Yes. They actually pour alcohol on the ground. Which, and I noticed it again in this. The first time I noticed it was, it's like, and that's the so and so who's one of their one of their lots.
And that's something that we used to do in Nigeria, where especially in the east of the country in Igbo land, you would take the drink, and the one that they used was schnapps. And when you were at a funeral and you were remembering somebody, you would pour some of the drink out onto the floor for the different people who'd gone and for the ancestors and all that kind of stuff. And it's funny and it's something that it never occurred to me. I used to see this in American films. I used to think, why they do that? Then it never occurred I never put two and two together. I went, hang on a second. Oh my God, that came from us. So we did that. Then obviously when the slaves got taken over to America and stuff like that, it was something that carried on. And it's now, and this is what I'm talking about, things becoming a stew. It's just been sort of gone through a prism of time. But never mind. We need to move on. I could talk about this film for ages because of all the other sort of nuances in it. But I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay, I'm just going to give it a 3. I'm going to give it a 3, but a solid 3. I'm going to give this one a solid 3 for me.
Cool, good stuff. And as I said, I could talk about that film more because there's just so much more. I think it's going to be one of the cultural moments of this year because of what's come from this film. But and the thing you said about Boys in the Hood and this, oh good Lord, there's so much that can be said. But let's move on. Let us move on.
Okay, let's move on. We need to move on.
So now we go over to Netflix and let's see the film that's going to go up against this. And this is Sharon. You saw something called Earthquake Bird.
Yeah.
So can you tell us?
This is a Netflix.
Yeah, tell us, what is Earthquake Bird about?
This is a film, a Netflix original film. Well, so it's been touted on Netflix. It's about a European woman from Sweden originally who is living in Japan. She's been there a number of years. She's working as a translator. And the film is still told almost in reverse. Mm-hmm. You see her at the beginning of the film where she has been seemingly brought into the police station for questioning because there's another, an American girl has gone missing and they suspect that she has been murdered, and they have pulled a body part out of the river. And so the Tokyo police are investigating this woman in connection possibly to this crime. And they say the story is told in reverse, so you see through her eyes as she is talking to these police officers how she met this American woman. Yeah. And then her own story, and then it's through the telling of her own story and how their two tales sort of linked. That this sort of crime thriller is sort of mystery is told. Okay. So it's very much a sort of who done it, and who done it, how done it. I'm actually it's not my main thing. I do tend to watch them, but it's not something I go, oh yippee, it's a crime thriller. But I like less showy films, and I think as the older I've got, the less I'm into sort of the whole, shoot 'em ups, really. I mean, I don't mind certain films, but most crime thrillers that you tend to see in the cinema, particularly, tend to be sort of the American genre. You don't often see the European ones or the different cultural ones. Right. And so this one, the fact that it's a European woman in Japan, I thought I found it much more interesting than if it had been the same story told, for example, in California. Yeah. And the Earthquake Bird there's a couple of scenes in the film where obviously it's Japan, so they have frequent tremors, and you see them in a tremor, and then there's a stillness after an earthquake where everything goes quiet, and they say there's the first bird that starts to sing after the earthquake is nicknamed the Earthquake Bird, and it normally sort of signifies a significant event. So you see this sort of parallel between these moments of stillness after significant events in the film. So there's poetry and there's sort of a lyricism to the film that sort of was up my street, really. It's a cross-cultural one where it's got sort of Japanese culture and with a Swedish woman as the centre of it. And I quite like my Nordic noir,
you do,
my Scandi crime drama. So it had a feel of that in some areas where you've got a feeling of unease when you're watching it because of the music, because of the mood, the lighting, and how these relationships aren't quite right. And when you see these sort of different there's two main relationships you see throughout the film, and you just get this feeling that's just not right. And so you have this sort of feeling of unease through it, which does appeal to my sense of cinematic appeal. So I actually enjoy that.
So this one actually has it's got Alicia Vikander in it as
she's the main star, is it? Yes.
Oh, good Lord. It's got Alicia Vikander, it's got Riley Keough. So these are not small names.
No, I think this is a film I would have seen at the cinema had it ever appeared.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know if it is just was commissioned by Netflix, but it was certainly touted under the Netflix Originals banner when I saw it. But no, I thought it had good production values. It had just a good feel, and the music was right to create that uneasiness. The lighting was right, and it's set in the 1980s of Japan, so you feel it's slightly off kilter because it's familiar but not, because it's
nobody has a mobile phone, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's no mobile phones, and one of the characters is a very keen photographer, and it's all about film. It's developing and producing and this sort of slow emerging of stuff. So I suppose in many ways the film is like developing a picture. You get glimpses, and then as it's developed, the full picture emerges towards the end. So I thought it was a classy piece of filmmaking, and I enjoyed it.
All right, cool. All right, so the American woman is played by Riley Keough.
Yes.
Who is Elvis's granddaughter.
Really? I never would have twigged.
Yeah, she's Elvis's granddaughter.
Of course, she's Lisa Marie's daughter, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
So it's played by Riley Keough. Have you ever thought that she looks like Drew Barrymore?
Yes, a little bit, yes. But now that you say it, I can see Elvis in her, I have to say.
It's like she's where Elvis and Drew Barrymore meet. Yes. So you quite enjoyed the thriller. You enjoyed the sort of mystery of it. And
yes.
How many stars would you give it?
I'd be generous with this one because I did enjoy it, and I would give it a 4. Because I liked all the performances, and I liked the setup, and it did
intrigue me when I looked on the Netflix, because it's one that's sort of fairly new, isn't it?
Yes, it's a new one.
And it came up, and I thought it's one that I probably might. But the trouble is, we've got so much.
There's a lot on there.
So much.
There's a few times, because again, I like the way that it plays with reality a little bit, because sometimes you don't know whether what she's seeing and what she's perceiving, because you see most of the film through her eyes, through the main character's eyes, Lucy Fly's eyes. You're not sure sometimes if what you're seeing is actually real. Or if it's something that she's dreaming or imagining, or because you get a sense of unease and sort of slight paranoia as you go through the films, and she reveals a bit about her background, which makes you understand why she feels the way she does, this sort of disconnect in some ways. So it felt good. I would recommend it if you like those slightly uneasy type sort of crime dramas, mysteries, then I would recommend it. So I think I like that one a lot.
All right, cool. Good stuff. Earthquake Bird. Seems like it's one of those films that was probably done at film festivals, and Netflix went, "We'll have it," and because they offered more money than anybody else, they got it.
They got it.
So, all right, cool. So that's Earthquake Bird, and it's funny you're talking about if you like stuff that gives you a sense of unease. Then Sharon, I might have something for you to watch in one of the things I shall be reviewing later.
Oh.
Yes. Also female focused, also kind of weird. Also, you're not really sure what's going on. But before we get to that, we're going to go back to cinema, and we are going to talk about what would have been the biggest talking point of this week. What would have... You know what? I think that there's... Sean, you're talking about like a publicity stunt. I think there's more of a chance that somebody in Vue Cinemas really, really doesn't like Frozen, and decided I'm going to stop this being the big story of the week. I'm going to do something that's going to make sure that all the headlines are not about Frozen, but about this instead. And so this is the film Frozen 2. It has been released. It is out there. Everybody remembers Let It Go. Everybody remembers the big behemoth that was the first Frozen movie. And now the second one is out. Sharon, you went and broke a habit of a lifetime by watching an animation movie.
Yeah.
I think our good friend Gemma.
Yeah.
People look at we're like dropping shout outs left, right, and center on this thing.
Yeah.
But our good friend Gemma dragged you along and took you to go see because you have like a rule of one animation movie a year.
Yeah, that's all I can stomach. I worry that too much sweetness will give me diabetes. And
so you have you it's a carry on, you were saying?
No, I just find them just not my cup of tea.
you just find them just no.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Cats trailer? Have you seen the trailer? Cats
Oh,
trailer?
please don't.
Oh,
That's just...
Have you seen the?
Anyway,
you look at that and you go, "That's wrong."
No, but I'll tell you what was wrong. Right, when I went to see Frozen 2, before Frozen 2, they had a Cats trailer.
Oh, you've seen it.
Yeah.
I've seen it. Yeah.
Before the Cats trailer, they had this thing where Jennifer Hudson and Francesca Hayward, who plays the lead in Cats, they do. You know how they started doing all these sort of intros of like, "Hi, you're about to see a trailer for the movie Cats in cinemas soon. Hope to see you soon at your local Odeon," or something like that. And they had this thing where it's like a two-hander between Francesca Hayward and Jennifer Hudson, and it is so awkward. It is so cringe. It's like somebody gave them a script to read, but didn't tell them who was supposed to say what line. Oh, good Lord! If you see it in front of Frozen 2, this Jennifer Hudson, Francesca Hayward thing, it is weird. But anyway, let's get on to the film.
They didn't have that at Cineworld, so that's a highlight I missed.
Okay, it must be,
apparently.
Oh, it must be an Odeon thing. Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah, it must be there.
Okay, so Sharon.
Frozen 2.
Yes, go away. Tell us what this is about.
Okay, this is the land of Arundel, an animated land. So I have to get rid of my cynicism. All right, we have. This is set some years after Frozen 2, and the characters have moved on. Elsa, she's the Snow Queen one, isn't she?
She's the queen, yeah.
Yeah, she's got a more, as of from the end of the first Frozen film, she's become, her powers, she's got them more under control. They're still there, and she doesn't really understand the root of them, but she's got them under control now, so she can assimilate into sort of Arundel society. Her sister, Elsa, is sort of,
No, her sister Anna.
I'm sorry, Anna is like doing her thing.
Yeah, but you don't want to get those two wrong. We will get so many complaints.
I know.
That could be like a Blue Story moment. But...
I have to visualise myself in a blue dress and say I am Elsa doing that while I talk about this. Anyway, so the story has moved on, and
just coming on that point there, I love saying to kids that have seen us, like, because all the things
they're all dressed up,
my daughter and relations and that, and I always get the names mixed up on purpose. I go, that one's Anna, isn't it? No, it's not. They get really upset, Tosin. Like you said, really. That is not Anna. That's Elsa. That's Anna. And I'm like, I'm sorry. But I mean, it's a purpose thing,
Well, things are not going well in Arundel. There's disturbances. There's been sort of like earthquakes, and there's been worries about the safety of the town, and there's a dam that has been. Was it in the first film?
It's not in the first film. Pretty much, there's hardly anything in this film that shows up in the first film.
All right. So there's this dam anyway and beyond the dam, there's this land that has been sort of trapped behind this
magical shroud.
A magical shroud, and in the land it's a sort of legendary place that their grandfather had gone in there to build this dam, and at the sort of the opening ceremony there was a horrible fight and he didn't come back, and this land was shut off forever. Have I got that right? Am I just making that up?
You've got that right, but Sharon, let me put you out of your misery. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me put you out of your misery of trying to regard this film.
Let's move this along.
Because
I'm struggling now.
Yeah, because I actually think that, quite frankly, with Frozen, the whole thing was that nobody was really going to care what the storyline was. People were going to be like, does it have Anna? Yeah. Does it have Elsa? Does it have Olaf? Yep. That's pretty much the sort of holy trinity of Frozen. Once you have those three, and do they sing? And
yes.
So they do that. They do go out there. They do sing. And the problem I had with this is, ever since Frozen was released, from the second one Frozen released, I remember watching the first Frozen film and going, not that big deal. I can kind of see like the story cogs moving. It doesn't feel like it flows. It feels like, they're trying to jump from one thing to another. And because the last Disney animated movie that was released before Frozen was Tangled, which I think is... And I have yelled this ever since Frozen was released. It is the ultimately superior film. Tangled is a great film. Tangled flows. Tangled is the kind of film that you can put up on TV and you catch 5 minutes of it, and before you know it, you've watched it all the way to the end, because it's just that great. And there were a lot of things in Frozen that I feel like I just saw like facsimiles of things in Tangled. So I was never really a Frozen person. When it became this big, massive phenomenon, I was like, what is wrong with all you people? Did you not see Tangled? and
that's it. It's like the Twilight series all over again. Are you the Frozen or Tangled? I have actually seen Tangled, Tosin. Yeah. I have actually seen Togen.
Shockingly, so have I.
And I thought it was all right. What did you think, Sharon?
That was my animation for the year, and I liked it.
Yeah, I did. Actually,
well, which one? Which one? Tangled or Frozen?
Tangled.
Yeah, Tangled. I thought that year.
Tangled is awesome. I'm sorry, Tangled.
We like Tangled.
Yeah, and I think that there's just bits. So Frozen 2, I think the best thing I can say about it is that it feels like a continuation of Frozen 1. So if you liked Frozen 1, you would probably like this. I'm not the big fan of the first Frozen movie, and I am not a big fan of this film. I feel like things are a bit kind of like, oh, right, we need to. I feel like the storyline, to actually kick the story off, it's a bit of a crunchy gear change, where there's bits at the beginning of this film that I feel have been done in a lot of other films, like, oh, we need to take the whole village and move everybody out of the village. That was done in the War for the Planet of the Apes film. And the same way it was done, like, Sean, you remember how you were annoyed about, oh, that doesn't make any sense, why would you do that? It just made me think about that. It was done in How to Train Your Dragon 3. Oh, we need to get this whole everybody, and we need to move everybody out of the village. And then they do the same thing again at the beginning of Frozen 2, so I'm like, I don't really know. And then they have all these themes that they're trying to do about, oh, this sister, that sister, this person's trying to propose marriage, and it keeps going wrong, and it just feels... And the musical numbers, even though I will admit, at least 3 of them made me smile, and I thought, okay, no, that's actually just really, really, really cool. They did not flow. It felt as if they just got plunked in place, like, as in...
Yeah.
It didn't feel as if, oh, this is where the story is going, and then this song is going to take us somewhere. It felt like it was the worst kind of thing in musicals, where essentially the story stops for somebody to do a song, that for somebody to do a Bohemian Rhapsody takeoff with reindeer. And so they were essentially, end of the day, I'll give it 3 out of 5 because I didn't think it worked, and I still think Tangled is way, way, way better.
Yeah, I probably would go along with that. I think I had this discussion with my friend after the film about, what's gone wrong with sort of musicals. In that, after, I think the only musical I can remember recently that's a proper musical, they singing and dancing, skipping along. And so not like the... So it's Greatest Showman. I mean, I think even things like The Star Is Born, great film, but it wasn't a musical in terms of like you're singing and dancing. But things like Mary Poppins, you come away from the film, and if someone said to you hum a song, you just couldn't do it.
Would you class La La Land as a musical?
Yes.
Yes,
I think
too.
it's I would say that was.
Yeah.
And again, I probably could only hum a bit of one of those songs. So I was thinking with the Frozen one, I couldn't really think of. Afterwards, when I was sort of chatting about it, they were gone. I mean, they were apart from not like there's this little pastiche of there's Olaf's song, and then there was his pastiche of like the 80s rock videos.
Yeah.
And there was like the big Elsa song. I couldn't have sung any of them. Even now, it's been a week, and I'm like, that's it. It's like shouty bit, shouty bit, soft bit.
Was it like a climate changey film as well? Because from the trailer, obviously I've seen the trailer a couple of times. No,
it's about being one with the elements and sort of uniting sort of like earth, air, and all that lot. So, but yeah, I would agree. I would give it a 3. I'd say if it's your bag, you'd probably like it more. If it's not your bag, there's something to enjoy. I mean, there were moments to smile about, and there were little people in the screening that I went to, and they loved Olaf. I mean, every time Olaf went up, you could see them buzzing with excitement.
Oh wow!
And this one little one was like. They couldn't restrain themselves. They were just like, Olaf! They were just loving it. And so that adds to it. So that if you've got little people, they'll probably love it, and you just got going to bear it for them. Yeah. So I would give it a 3 as well.
They're probably going to make a fortune from the toys this Christmas, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
They might do a film like, what was that film, Arnie Schwarzenegger film, where they have to find the last toy?
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All the Way, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
The only thing part of me was thinking as well is like, okay, they've got different dresses. They're going to be pulling out those new dresses for the little girls to wear because a lot of the girls in the cinema, the little tiddly ones, were wearing their Frozen dresses. They're going to try to promote new ones.
And I will tell you. I will tell you. I think that you've struck on the thing about Frozen. So when I talk about the whole Tangled Frozen thing, the thing is, Tangled is a good story. It's a good story. It's a well-made film. Frozen is an impressive marketing exercise, and I feel like Frozen is designed to within an inch of its life to make money from small people. So if you're a young girl, you have like the role model things. If you're young whatever, you have Olaf. So it's like, and you have the whole thing where you have the two princesses, one princess, her theme is self-actualization, love yourself, all that kind of stuff. So we got that story in there for that person. We have the other one, and the other one, she is more the sort of the typical princess. So she's your princess who is probably going to get married at the end, but is going to be like, also of like, a bit of an independent woman. So I feel like Frozen is just engineered to make money from small people, especially girls. And I feel like I feel the storyline comes second. So I just don't feel like it holds together. So
I agree with that, because I think when looking back at the classic animation of the past, when they draw upon fairy tales, the real fairy tales, they actually keep the heart of that story there. You get a better story, you get a better film. Like with Tangled, they've kept to the fairy tale, they've kept to the original story.
Yeah. That's it.
And then with the original The Snow Queen, I mean they jiggled about with it more, but it was effectively The Snow Queen, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
So I think when they go through and they look at proper stories, the proper fairy tales, and they keep the core of that there, you end up with a better film. Whereas this one, I think, when they don't have that story, they've just sort of made it up. Without too much thought about that. I don't think they just went, let's make a story.
Merchandising. We'll make a packet.
It's not as strong, but I think if it's your bag, I'm sure these little ones will love it still.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah. But anyway.
So Frozen 2. I've seen it. Yeah.
Let's put it this way. Personally speaking, Sharon, I'm quite annoyed that you wasted your one film a year on this one. I'm like,
and I think technically that probably counts as my 2020 film because I've seen 2 this year. I saw Toy Story 4, which was worth it,
Yeah, okay.
Toy Story 4 was good.
Yeah, Toy Story 4 was worth it. But there's going to be another Pixar film next year, and you want to use it on Frozen. Come on.
I know. Well, you might give me into going to see one next year.
Oh, okay. Maybe you can make it 2 or 3 a year.
You wasted it.
Behave, Shawnee.
You wasted it on Frozen. Okay, right. Let's move on. Sean, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I reckon like the big Star Wars film is probably going to be a merchandising film as well, I reckon, coming up, don't you?
Star Wars has been merchandising from the very beginning.
For years, yeah.
It started the whole thing, didn't it?
It did, really, yeah.
Okay, speaking about which, there is a documentary series on Netflix called The Toys That Made Us. And each episode sort of like goes about these toys that became massive and were just like created crazes, like, the Toy Story toys or Barbie or anything like that. And the first episode is about Star Wars, and it points out that Star Wars, from selling toys, the toys of Star Wars have made 3 times what the films have made.
Wow.
Yeah. So from the very
that puts it into some sort of perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah. From the very beginning, Star Wars has been a merchandising thing. It's just a bit more blatant now. All right. Yeah. So let's go back to sitting at home. Netflix and Friends. Well, Amazon Prime this time around, and we're going to be talking about a TV show called Homecoming. And now this is a Amazon Prime original. It stars Julia Roberts, Bobby Cannavale, Stephen James, a whole bunch of different people, and it is based, weirdly enough, on a podcast. So there's a podcast called Homecoming. You can find it on all good podcast providers everywhere. While you're there, find us as well, Netflix or Cinema, and give us a review. And this was a dramatic podcast that was made, and it had like choir cast, like had like Catherine Keener, had Oscar Isaac in the podcast, and then they adapted that into a TV series, which they bring, which with Julia Roberts. And the whole idea is that you start off in this facility, and this facility is called Homecoming, and you have Julia Roberts. She plays a character. She's kind of like she's like a therapist. And the whole idea of Homecoming is that people come back from wars. So like soldiers come back from wars, and it's about helping them transition into civilian life. That's what you're told at the beginning. So you see them going through sort of like role-playing things of, you want to get a job? Let's go through a role-play of what you do when you're going for an interview. Then they all come in and they have like one-on-one sessions with Julia Roberts' therapist, who sort of says, how are you feeling? What's going on? All that kind of stuff. And there's one particular character called Walter Cruz, who she sort of takes a shine to, and she sort of like starts focusing on him and trying to like work with him, and you see a lot of the stuff from the soldiers through his eyes while he's sort of sat down there and things with that. But as it goes along, it sort of cuts. So it cuts from her, then all of a sudden it jumps to it's made it plain that this has happened a couple of years later. So you see her a couple of years later, and she's no longer in that job. She's working in like a sort of diner, like a sort of shack diner somewhere in Florida. She obviously doesn't have the high-powered job anymore, and there's this investigator who's showing up, and this investigator's showing up to try and ask her about, I want to ask you about what happened at the homecoming facility a couple of years ago. Could you let me know about that? Because there was a complaint made, and I need to follow this complaint because he's from the Department of Defense, and he wants to find out what happened at this place. And as it goes along, you have this weird thing where the full screen ratio, like a 16:12 ratio, like a widescreen ratio.
Yeah.
So everything that happens when she has the job, the high power job, is done in a widescreen ratio. And everything that happens when she's working, like in the future, when she's working at the restaurant, is done in a sort of square ratio. So there's black bars at the side of the screen. So it makes it very obvious what which timeline you are in, because of these two timelines, you're sort of trying to follow the story. And you're like, okay, what's going on? Why are those black bars there? Why is everything going on there? And eventually there is a reason for that. There's a reason for that, but to talk about that would be a massive, massive spoiler. And it sort of like goes on, and as you go on, you start getting this idea that this is just like a big corporate thing, because she has a boss who she only ever talks to on the phone. And when she talks to him on the phone, the sound changes so that even though you can see them, you hear the sound like it's like a phone call. A bit like the way you guys are hearing me now is what you hear on the with all the sort of like slight static and all that kind of stuff. And they have these conversations throughout where they're talking about what they're trying to do in the facility, and you realize that everything at this facility might not be all that it seems. So over the 8 episodes, as you're watching it, you're little by little things are showing up, and as both timelines move forward, you sort of figure out, okay, this is what they're doing with these soldiers at the homecoming facility, and at the same time, this is how it's playing out in the future, when things are coming up and all that. And I think it's really, really, really well crafted. It is weird. This is the thing I was talking about, Sharon, that I was going to tell you. Yes, if you like weird mysteries that unfold and tell you what's going on, it's worth watching this. I really, really enjoyed it. I'd give it a 4 out of 5, and I think like everybody across the board in it is excellent. I mean, Bobby Cannavale, Cher Wiggum, Stephen James. Sean, you know him from the movie Race. He played Jesse Owens in Race.
Oh, right. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Julia Roberts. I mean, I just think that it's a very weird. It's made by the guy who made Mr. Robot, so it is weird. It's unsettling. There's bits where you're like, what the heck's going on? Because some of the soldiers start getting a bit paranoid, thinking they tell us we're in Florida. We're not really in Florida. What are they doing with us? What are they doing? What are they? And it just, I feel like it's the kind of show that towards its end, when you have a show where it's all about the mystery. And what keeps you coming back is the mystery, and oh my god, what's going on? That when it actually starts coming out and when it starts getting resolved, I feel like stories like that inevitably they feel like a bit of a letdown. And it's something that I was looking at it when looking online, because it's the kind of show that you watch it and then you go online and you go, okay, what exactly was happening? This is what I think was happening, but am I right? Am I right? And so you go online and you find that people saying, oh, well, the last 2 episodes were dipped down a bit. And I think that's only because you're getting closer to what the mystery actually is. When I think a lot of the fun of this kind of show is guessing what the heck's going on. And so when you start getting to the point where you're being told what's going on, it kind of, you're like, oh, I like the bit where I was guessing. So even if you're right, so I would give that a 4 out of 5. I'll say it's really, really, it's well worth a watch. The episodes are really short and they go by really quickly. Each episode's about half an hour. It's actually less than half an hour. So you can. Oh,
that's good. Yeah, I could do those. Yeah, you can get through them.
Yeah. Honestly, you start watching it and before you know it, the episode's over. And you're like, whoa, okay. What's going to happen next? So I would say, worth a watch. Homecoming, Julia Roberts' first ever TV show. She chose a good one. Right.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, that's unless you guys have any questions, which I don't think so, we can move on.
No.
You're like, yeah, enough of that. Now let's talk about my stuff.
No, it's not that. It's just that it was just interesting to listen to it.
It's just listening to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, because we like. The trouble is, Toes, there's so much to watch, isn't there?
There is.
I mean, I'd love to see that. I would really love to see that. I'd love to see Earthquake Bird. I'd like to see some of these films, but it's getting the time, really.
Yeah. I mean, at the moment, it's funny, right? Because
if you could have like 5 TVs and watch everything, like David Bowie and The Man Who Fell to Earth, that'd be quite cool, wouldn't it?
I'll tell you what. A weird thing that has started happening. It's started happening because there's so much to watch that if one of you guys has seen something, even if I was going to see it before you, if you see it and you review it on this show before I watch it, I'm probably not going to watch it.
No, that's it.
I've done exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
I think if it's been reviewed, I think I do need to watch that one.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, forget about it. We as a collective have seen it. We have seen that film. So
we've seen it.
I thought, like I said,
and we liked it. It's fair enough. That's good enough for me.
That's it.
I thought, like I said, I'm like, we saw Dr. Sleep. I don't need to see it anymore. So so it's going. So even though, so I know I'm not saying this so much for Sean or Sharon, but for anybody who's listening, find Homecoming on Amazon Prime. It's worth your time. And now we go back to cinema, and this is the film that in the furore of Blue Story and the big behemoth of Frozen 2, this is the film that is going to get forgotten this week. Even though
not by us,
not by us, but by a large part of the populace. I include myself in that because I forgot about this film. Even though it stars Black Panther himself, even though it stars Chadwick Boseman himself, and even though it's the first film to come from the guys who directed Avengers Endgame, from the new studio Agbo, 21 Bridges. This film is going to get forgotten. I'm sorry, but it's going to get forgotten this week, and it pains me to say that. But Sean, you went to see this film. What did you think?
I did go to see this film.
So quick thing about what it's about, then what did you think?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick story. Basically, starts off a funeral. This starts off a funeral with a young lad. His dad was a policeman who got killed, and then it flashes to he's grown up. He's become a detective, and obviously he's been under investigation a few times by internal investigations because he's killed quite a lot of people, especially well, anyway. So then this robbery thing goes down where some cops get killed. So the chief of police says, right, we want this man to investigate the case because we know he's going to get revenge for all these. So they get him in, and he sort of says, no, it's only if they shot, it's only if they were going to shoot first. I've only because people were like, oh yeah, we're glad you're on the case, because they've got him tapped out as like he's trigger happy. He's trigger happy,
He's the cop killer.
He's the cop killer, yeah. So anybody that kills a cop, because it's and they're all. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's a lot more to it than that.
Ooh.
Now, a lot more to it than that. And I have to say, I was really, really impressed with this movie. Really, really impressed. There was nothing. Maybe there's one bit which I thought, wow, I think there's only one bit in it that I can pick it up on. The rest, I think, is really good, really effective, makes sense. The sort of things that would happen, people get killed, people get things. It was really good. The action sequences were first class. I wasn't like, oh no, that wouldn't. What are you doing? Everything was, except for one, which I think a little bit of a chase sequence was, a little bit.
Yes. But Sean, your feelings about chase sequence have been very, very well documented on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I have to say, and maybe the end was a little. I thought, I wasn't sure about the end, but overall, this film, I have to say, was for me was a class act. I really, really like Chadwick. Yep. Really, really, I think and in this, he's really, really believable. And I think there's also Sienna Miller is in this. And
she's in the car.
she's with drugs. She's with narcotics because, the actual robbery is to do with obviously there's drugs involved, and it's all like it's intrigue and it's all set up, and there's something not quite right. There's something not quite right with what's going on because there's one scene where a couple of things like how come they've obviously closed the bridges, hence 21 bridges. They've closed the city down. It's night time as well, so they've said basically the FBI have said we're going to give you till 5 o'clock in the morning, which makes sense. Yeah, because they said
is that something they can actually do?
I don't know if they can in real life, but they've actually, they said we're just going to do it because this is early in the morning. The whole thing is taking place like 2 o'clock in the morning. So they say you've got this time to get. It goes right. This is what we need to do. Close all the bridges, close all the subways. So And then they said, look, we've got to open the city at 5:30. We must, so you've got up to that time. And otherwise the FBI is going to take over us all. But everything in this film, for me, there's, you know, from a personal point of view, I thought, yes, I can see that happening and how they track the people. But then it's how, you know, so you got Chadwick there playing Andre Davis, yeah. And he's a detective. So, and he gets all this info from different people, and they say, oh, yeah, this is where we think this might be. But by the time he gets there, some other police had turned up, you know, and it's like, you know, well, that's
there's more to it than just a cop killer.
It's just not a cop killer.
Chasing cop killer.
There's a lot more to this movie.
So the thing is not shown with this film, because when I saw the way this film was set up, I think it was almost kind of like, I feel like the film was almost sort of detox for everybody who was involved in the Avengers Endgame, because they're like, right, we're going to go to something that doesn't involve any special effects. It's going to be all practical. It's almost going to, and it seems like it's always kind of a throwback to those sort of 70s cop thrillers.
I would say more, 70s, 80s. Yeah, I would say more 80s actually. I had more 80s.
It's not French Connection. It's more early Bruce Willis
or Raw Deal.
Probably no, much more serious than Bruce Willis. You know, I know Bruce Willis is okay, but you know, I went totally off of him in Death Wish. You know what I mean? That's an awful movie. But anyway, and I've gone off him. He's one of my Stanley Tucci things, Bruce Willis.
Would you say this was like an Enemy of the State then? That type of thing?
Yeah, but not with the techie stuff. Yeah, there is a lot of stuff going on, and all the time, while these things, you know, well, I've just got the information. How come these other police have turned up and done some stuff? You know, I mean, how would they know about that?
So,
you know,
so beginning to sound a little bit Serpico.
Serpico, yeah, I guess it's a little bit like that, but not so much with the police against him, because in Serpico, you know, police. So it's not so much that, but it's just because they've got him in because they think he's going to kill the people.
He's going to
kill. He's going to kill the people. So there's not going to be a lot of info, you know, a lot of info, because he's just going to shoot them. You know, he's not even going to think about it. He's not even going to think twice. You know, he's not going to like say, oh, you know, I'm going to arrest you. He's just going to shoot. But
all right. So
it's not what it seems.
So it sounds like so you're saying you quite liked it and everything like that. It sounds like it's quite more. It focuses on the detective side of things, on the actual sort of like, let's do some work to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in it. I mean, there's a lot of action, but yeah, there's that in it as well. I mean, you can sort of see where it's going as the film goes on. You can, you know, you do pick up on what's happening. You know, it's not. It's. I wouldn't say it's like whoa, you know, like whoa revelation, but you can sort of see as things go along. You think, oh, okay, this character, you know, we can see why you're there. You can see what's happening.
It's not the kind of thing where they have Pedro Pascal show up and he's playing a good guy at the beginning of the film, and by the end of the film you're like, well, you're obviously the bad guy. So like he did in that Kingsman movie, like he did in The Equalizer 2.
Oh, like the Kingsman's movie, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is a good solid film, and I liked it a lot. And the reason I liked it a lot was because it made sense. Like, basically, after this thing's done, why wouldn't you know, get away?
The big question.
Yeah, I was just going to tell you. Sorry, but it's like, why wouldn't you get straight away if this has happened and you've done this thing? You'd want to get out as soon as you can, but you can't get out as soon as you can because you've got to go and do other things, and hence how they managed to try and find all these things. You know, yeah, great film, 4 stars.
Oh, cool. Good stuff.
My big question is, did Happy John like it?
Yeah, he did, funnily enough. Happy John was okay with it. Yeah, he was okay with it. So he wasn't he was okay with this, yeah. So yeah, so I really enjoyed this. Happy John, yeah. I really enjoyed this film, Tosin. I think you would too, actually.
Yeah. I think I will actually try and catch this weekend. So it's funny how we're building, like, you know, a rogues gallery. We have Superfan Nina, Happy John. It's like, you know, London correspondent Holly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, we're getting a few little nods, aren't we?
Yeah, and we have like, you know, drags Sharon along to animations, Gemma,
yeah. Yeah, animation queen Gemma.
Yeah, animation and musical queen, to be honest.
And musical, yeah. So nice films.
With the musical ones.
Pardon?
I cooperate with the musical ones. I love a bit of musicals.
Okay, so now we go back to Netflix for our final film to this evening, and this is Fast Color. Now, I'm not even sure if this is a film, a TV series, a documentary. I don't have a clue. Sharon, you're the one who saw it. What is Fast Color?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, actually, because it felt like it was part of a longer story.
Okay.
Like this felt like it was like episode 1 of something, but I don't know anything about it, whether it's based on a series of books or whether it's just a screenplay, but it felt like it wasn't the whole story. But basically, this is a sci-fi thriller set in the future where it's been the planet Earth has been ravaged by drought for a number of years. There's been no rain for a number of years, and things are drying out. The cost of water has become exorbitant. That people are having to hide their water supplies, and if you want to buy a bottle of water, it can cost you like $100 to buy a bottle of water. And so the planet has become scorched. And into this world, we meet our main character, who is called Ruth. And it turns out through the film that she has some sort of supernatural power, that she's had it since she was a child, and it has grown down through the female side of her family. So all the women in her family have manifested these powers. They're like earth magic, where she can tap into earth energy and things on a molecular level. And as the film progresses, we find out that her mother has it where she can make things disintegrate onto an atomic level and then rebuild them again in a simple form way. And then we found out that she has an estranged daughter that she has sort of given to her mum to raise because she can't cope with her powers, so she gave up her daughter, and her daughter has got these powers of her own, that she can disassemble matter and then rebuild it again. So they have got this sort of elemental sort of powers, and people have identified that she has these powers, and they've been trying to hunt her down. So she is sort of fleeing, more or less going back to her mother, because she's trying to sort of find out about her powers, and these people are trying to get her.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that they're trying to get her because where she can manipulate the elements, they believe she may be able to do something about
gotcha.
And so it's all like sort of like this sort of elemental magic. So yeah, this is a story that, but then when it ends, you get the feeling that there's more to come. So I don't know that this is part of a series of like YA books about this or not. I just don't know. But yes, it's sort of a story about this a world in trouble, and how these women with their sort of elemental earth magic might be part of the answer, that having been sort of in hiding for a number of years, that now might be their time when they can.
Is there much in the way of action?
There's a bit of action in it, yeah.
I'm looking at it on Netflix at the moment, and it has the taglines. Let's see. It has the taglines. Number 1, cerebral. It says cerebral, understated sci-fi drama.
Yeah, it is. I would say it's lo-fi in that it's not all. You do get some effects, but it's not all about the whiz bangs.
Yeah.
It's more about her development, her past, and her coming to terms with herself. It's like that sort of discovery of who she is and who she's meant to be. So yeah, there's some interesting elements to it. There's a couple of moments of violence in it and action, and there's so it isn't just but it is more of a lo-fi rather than the high end effects.
No, this
science fiction.
Well, going back onto the whole thing of there being too much around nowadays, this actually has quite a good cast. It's got Gugu Mbatha-Raw in it, who is really, really good, and she's not really so particularly low profile. It was released in 2019. It's not labeled as a Netflix. Is it? No, it's not labeled as a Netflix original. But
no, I came across it through Netflix, but I think it's one of those trending now things that they throw at you every now and then.
Yeah, it's not Netflix original, which means it must have been at the cinemas somewhere, but just not here. I'm pretty sure it was not released in cinemas here. But it's...
No, she's got Lorraine Toussaint plays her mother, and David Strathairn plays her father, and it's... Yeah, and the little girl, I don't want to pronounce her name really badly, but I think it's Sania Sidney.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure she's a little girl in The Passage who was brilliant in The Passage as as a little girl in that. I'm trying to see if her filmography. Yeah, she was in The Passage. She plays Amy Belafonte in The Passage. She was brilliant. She's a really great young actress. I think we're going to see a lot more of her as she grows older. So yeah, it was a good cast, and it was well done for what it was. I mean, it is lo-fi. It is more intense. It's more about the character than the action and the world. And it does create sort of different aspects about the world around you, and they do create a world in which, these people have these abilities, for good or for ill. And so, yeah, it was interesting. So, yeah, I would say it's, and again, it's sort of, like a quite intense, lo-fi film. So I would give it a solid 3. I mean, I wouldn't say it was outstanding, because this morning when I was saying to you what I'd seen this week, I'd forgotten I'd seen it. But I did enjoy it at the time. But it isn't one that really stays with you. You don't go, that's really, I have to, because normally if it was based on a series of books, I'll probably look up, think, there is a series of books about that, and I didn't in this case.
All right.
But it was, it's a good piece of entertainment, but it's a good 3-star film, and it might be part of a wider series, I don't know, but it's a possibility. All right. But yeah, I'd say it's solid 3.
Solid 3. Right, cool. So all that's left for us to do this week, you see, now that's one I might actually go and watch. I think it's more likely I would watch something on Netflix than I watch something in the cinema, quite frankly, after you guys have reviewed it, because I can have it on in the background while I'm working. The benefits of working.
That's it. You don't have to be all your attention.
Yeah. The joy is, as I say, it's quite good, because you can. I mean, it's like series or even like really, really long movies. You can actually watch them in sections.
Yes.
I found to do that, and that is the one advantage, I think, with the streaming platforms, is you can think, right, okay, I'll stop it there and I can come back to that. That's a nice little place to stop it. I can come back for another episode.
Yeah, it's funny.
As a film I'll be doing next week.
Essentially, I know, because I know at the moment you're partway through The Irishman.
I'm quite a lot way through The Irishman, but it's really, really good. In fact, I think The Irishman could have been a series. Well, and I think it would have worked as a as an Netflix series.
3 hours and 20 minutes, yes.
Yes, yeah.
Because the funny thing about that is, like, that's the kind of thing that if it was in cinemas, it would take. I mean, trying to carve that's half a day. Pretty much your whole day is trying to watch that film, and it's but if it's because it's on Netflix, I think there's more of a chance of watching it. But anyway, that's a whole other thing to do it. And imagine
that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Imagine Martin Scorsese's poor heart breaking when he heard that you paused The Irishman. You paused it. You paused it.
No, don't tell him, please.
You paused it and you went to the kitchen to make your dinner, Sean.
It was like an episode. It was stopped at a good place. Believe me, it was like, it shifted years, so it was okay. It was a good place to do it.
Yeah. I can just imagine Sean going, wait. Yeah, stop it now. Yep, good. Whew. Finally, I can go pee. But
the good thing is, I think if you do that, and I've done that, is that if you actually go on and you resume watching, it will go back a little. It goes back.
Yeah.
A little way. It doesn't sort of start where you finished. Yeah.
It jumps back a little way to help you get back into it. Right, so
I know I should be pilloried by that in the cinema world. How dare you? How could you do that?
How dare you pause the film?
Yeah.
But then again, next week we'll be talking about cinema etiquette based on something that happened with superfan Nina when she was watching Knives Out. But we'll be talking about that next week. But now all that's left to do for this week is to let you know who has won this week. Now, this is a mega close one. I think it is after last week where it was a dead heat between everything. This is a mega close one, which I think it's essentially there's 0.1.
Oh,
0.1 of a star between
0.1
of a star between cinema and between Netflix this week. So this has become something that we do. Who do you reckon has won, Sharon?
I think Netflix.
I think Netflix pipped it by the 0.1. Yeah.
You're both right. Netflix has pipped it by 0.1.
Wow.
By 0.1.
Wow.
I like it when it's close. It means that there's good stuff for all of us to go watch. Although if you are a younger person, probably like statistically speaking of a female persuasion, cinema has won by a mile this week. But
let it go
into the unknown.
Yeah,
oh right, that's the new one.
Even though you've sung it up, I still can't remember it.
You do know what Gemma's going to make you go to the sing-along, don't you? They're bound to have a sing-along.
Anyway.
Right, Elsa, so enough.
For anybody listening, thank you for listening this far. Please do find us on iTunes and do leave us a review. If it's 5-star, if it isn't 5-star, go away and never darken our door again. Or on any of the other platforms you listen to. We're now on Spotify, so have a listen on Spotify. Just find Netflix Vue Cinema. And you guys might have noticed we have a new thumbnail. I made a new thumbnail, which I'm really, really happy with, and I'm hoping we don't get sued for. But but it'll be up on our Facebook page soon, and it'll be up on our Twitter page soon. But thank you so much for listening. Until next week, all that's left to say is a goodbye from me.
And goodbye for me.
And a goodbye from me.
We will see you guys next week when we'll definitely be talking Knives Out and the other one, Charlie's Angels. That was it. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Charlie's.